When I was a beginner and I was just getting started on my fitness journey, I used to spend hours and hours looking into fitness content online to try and figure out how I could make gains faster. And I found that at the end of it, I just ended up leaving more confused than ever. And a huge part of this is because a lot of the information online is conflicting, a lot of people contradict each other quite a bit, and it just seems like the fitness industry nowadays is becoming more and more confusing than ever because of the abundance of information that there is. So in this video, I'm going to completely simplify all of the basic key concepts which are the most important and will have the highest ROI, which I wish I knew when I started lifting. So the first thing I wish I knew is that just stick to a routine which you enjoy. It doesn't really matter too much if it's the most optimal routine. What matters more is that it's something which you're motivated to go and train and do, something which you find enjoyable, and something which is sustainable, which you can stick to long term. Because even if you have a super optimal routine and you keep chopping and changing it up and everything, over the course of 10 years, it's the person who just has that routine that he really enjoys, which he knows he can stick to, with a key set of exercises he likes doing. That's the person who's going to make more results over the course of 10 years. So this is where over-analyzing your routine, changing out exercises here and there, it actually has a net negative impact, and it's not going to help you as much as you think it is, because it's just going to lead to burnout and it's going to lead to people quitting. So as long as you're training 3 days per week and hitting each muscle group hard at least one time per week, outside of that, the benefits of really changing up your routine further than that is quite minimal. And as long as you're just hitting that muscle group once per week minimum on every muscle group, then you're going to be making progress. The second point is that if you're a beginner especially, you should just be focusing your training around progressive overload. And the best way to do this is to just track your lifts. So studies have shown multiple times that the only way to actually induce muscle growth and increase the size of your muscle fibers is through increasing the mechanical tension which your muscles are under. And the way that you do this is by just increasing the weight or the amount of reps which you're doing on an exercise each and every week. And if you continually progressively overload on these two things, or one of these two things, then you're going to find that over time, your muscles are just going to grow bigger, because mechanical tension is the stimulus for muscle growth. So if you just increase the amount of stress that your muscles are under each time, it forces your muscles to adapt and grow and to come back stronger, because you're taking them to a place that they haven't been before. So this is where just increasing the amount of resistance your muscles are under and increasing the amount of force exerted on your muscles is really the only beneficial metric which you should be looking at. So this is a good way to tell if your training is working or not. If you're progressively overloading and you're getting stronger each time you hit the gym, then you're building muscle. The next point is that you actually don't need as much volume as you think, and intensity is going to trump volume every single day of the week. When I started, I thought that the answer to building more muscle was to just add more and more into my routine. And I ended up doing sometimes even 20 sets per muscle group throughout the course of a week, because I thought that just doing more would just induce more muscle growth and it would lead to better results. Whereas the reality is that this is actually very far from the truth. And you only actually need 2 or 3 really hard sets on a muscle group in a session to stimulate about 90 to 95% of your total potential muscle growth. And anything above that, all you're really doing is you're inducing fatigue, which means that your subsequent workouts are going to suffer. All of the subsequent sets in your current workout is also going to suffer. And your ability to come back stronger and continue to improve your strength is actually going to be compromised as well. So this is where intensity comes in instead of volume. Instead of worrying about how many sets you're doing or how many reps you're doing per week, just focus on, are you pushing hard and pushing close to failure? Because it's in those last couple reps in each set where you really stimulate that growth and where you really get that progress to kick in. So if you want your results to take off, just do 2 to 3 hard sets, minimize the amount of fatigue which you're accumulating, and just train hard, leave 1 rep in reserve and train close to failure. And this is where the results and the stimulus for muscle growth really starts to happen. My next point is, and something which I really wish I knew as a beginner, is to train less and recover more. When I started, I used to train 5-6 days per week and my sessions would go for an hour and a half to sometimes even 2 hours. And the reason why this is such an issue is because it would just lead to so much fatigue accumulating, and I wouldn't be able to recover after this workout. That meant that all of my subsequent workouts for the whole week would take a hit because of this accumulated fatigue, and because the productivity would just go down dramatically. So this is where I started recently to just implement a 3 workout sessions per week. And I found that this routine is perfect because not only are you only training 3 days per week, but you're giving yourself a day of rest in between each workout. I train Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And when you do this and you have a full day of rest in between each workout, your central nervous system has enough time to actually recover and come back stronger. So that each time you're hitting the gym, not only are your muscles recovered, but also your nervous system is fully recovered, which means that your ability to actually activate your muscle fibers and recruit motor units is going to be significantly higher. So I found that when you start to actually prioritize recovery, your results really start to take off, and your strength just continually goes up and progressive overload starts to take off. So I highly recommend just doing 3 hard workouts per week and have 4 days off. You can do cardio outside of this, but I just found that if you do resistance training more than 3 days per week, this is where the amount of stimulus that you're putting on your nervous system and the amount of stress you go under starts to take its toll, and your ability to actually recover, come back stronger, and build muscle is going to be compromised. My 5th and final point is to just have a small calorie surplus and have a balance of fats, carbs, and protein. So when I started, I used to think that you just needed to eat as much as possible and this would lead to the most amount of muscle growth. Whereas the reality is that anything more than about 200 calories in a surplus each day is just going to accumulate a lot of fat and actually lead to 0 additional muscle growth. So if you're just sitting in that slight surplus of 1 to 200 additional calories each and every day, this is absolutely enough calories to support maximum muscle growth. And just going beyond this and eating whatever you want, or just eating as much as you want and trying to justify it by saying that you're going to get bigger, you will get bigger in your weight, but it's not going to correlate to any more muscle growth because it's actually not possible. So therefore, when you're bulking, just stick to a lean bulk. Put on that muscle and don't put on that fat. And then you won't have to spend months cutting down, just trying to maintain your muscle or losing muscle just to get rid of that fat that you spent so much time and effort to put on in the first place. Next point is just balance of fats, carbs, and protein. You need protein to repair your muscle tissue. You need carbs to replenish glycogen storage in your muscles and to fuel your workout. And fats are absolutely crucial for your hormonal health and testosterone, which is your muscle building hormone. So if you don't have a balance of these 3, you're going to find that your hormones crash, your energy crashes, and most of all, your mood is going to crash a lot as well. Your sleep quality will also take a hit on the back of this. So that's why I think it's super important to just prioritize protein, try and hit that goal of 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, but also make sure that you don't cut out on fats and carbs, because this is really going to compromise your strength, your enjoyment of training, and your ability to come back and continually build muscle.